PR Connections Radio presents this episode of the PR Connections podcast is brought to you by Classy Communications PR and Advertising. Classy Communications provides public relations and marketing solutions for businesses, professionals, and nonprofit organizations. They can deliver the true meaning of your business with press releases, social media marketing, web development, email marketing, book publishing, and much more. Wherever your potential clients are, they can help you connect with them. Visit classycommunications.net to learn more about their suite of services that can help your business stand out from the rest. Classy Communications is your solution for business success.
G'day, g'day, g'day. You're back with Anna Karenina K. Aloha. And I've got another great guest today. Her name is Lisa Griggs. And she knows everything there is to know about epilepsy, everything you didn't know about epilepsy. Thank you very much, Lisa, for coming on. G'day to you.
Oh, thank you so much, AK. Yes, I'm not a neurologist. I do know a lot about epilepsy, AK, because I lost my son last year to SUDEP, which is sudden death in epilepsy. And so I know enough about epilepsy to be able to contribute certainly to the community of epileptics. And I hope that's what we're going to be able to do today with your help.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we've got quite a lot of time to expand on everything that you know, and you know it from such a heartfelt place. I don't know how you deal with something like you've gone through. Your son, he passed at 18, right?
Yes, 18 years old. And,
are you there?
Was just...
Oops, I've lost her.
Yeah.
Hey, come back. I don't know if it's me or... There you go.
Yes. I lost him at 18 years old. And he was diagnosed when he was 14 with juvenile epilepsy. That's when he had his first seizure. Took him to the hospital, and then had a series of tests after that proved that he was susceptible to seizures. And then that's when he was diagnosed with juvenile epilepsy when he was 14.
So before 14, there was nothing there. He was just a regular kid, right?
He was an amazing kid. He was a prodigy drummer. I mean, he had been playing drums since he was 2 years old.
Oh,
he was up on stages, worship teams in church at 2 years old, playing congas and bongos, and just, seemed to be almost a Renaissance man. AK, I would tell him a lot, Judah, it's not my fault that you were born 3,000 years old and stuck in a child's body, because he seemed to really have a way about him that was the life of the party, was the light of the earth, and just the way that he loved people, the compassion and just empathy that flowed through him. It was truly beautiful, and was really like a Renaissance man to a degree.
And so how did you know? Did he have the seizure in front of you?
Yeah, so he would experience what they call grand mal seizures or tonic seizures, which is kind of the very stiff, rigid shaking, foaming of the mouth, biting the tongue, eyes rolling back, almost where if you would even try to touch him, it would, produce even more angst in his body and strength, in his body. So there was a very, specific way of even having to navigate, when he would have a seizure, to be able to keep him safe and then bring him back online, because a lot of people don't realize when they have seizures that they even had a seizure. You have to actually explain to them afterwards that they had a seizure.
So what happens in their brain? Is it just like it didn't happen? They just go from this second to the next second without that middle part showing up.
Very much so, AK. It's like neurologically, their brain actually misfires. So it shuts down and then it has to come back online again. So when that's happening, there's a lot of memories that are overlapping. There's a lot of, almost people will explain it as having a near-death experience 100 times over, because you're actually going through almost a death and then coming back online again. And sometimes people will have seizures and they will not come out of them. And that's basically what setup is.
Okay, so how did you deal with it? You must have been in shock when you first saw him have a seizure.
It's absolutely, your question probably gives me chills all over my body. Just speaking to any parent or any caretaker or sibling or loved one, spouse, even that is married to somebody or has a significant other that has epilepsy. You live with a quiet insecurity that you don't talk about a lot, but you know it's there in the background, that epileptic that you love may not be there that next morning, or may not be coming back online after that seizure. So there is a lot of insecurity that is felt certainly around that for those that love epileptics and are caretakers of them.
Okay. My next question is, how did you educate yourself about how to look after your son?
So a lot of it is just really, experiential. Words don't teach and life experiences do. And I think we can take a lot from that just in everyday life. Neurologists don't have a lot of time to spend with patients because the medical system is so overloaded right now. And 1 out of every 26 Americans will develop epilepsy in their lifetime. The statistics are very, very high. 1 in 10 will have a seizure in their lifetime, even if it's a seizure related to something else, meaning they're not diagnosed as an epileptic, but they'll still have a seizure that's a byproduct of a medication or another chronic illness or some other kind of medical condition. So I think it's mostly trial and error of just learning the ways of the different types of seizures. And then, of course, just getting educated. But, really, AK, I didn't learn so much until after my son passed. That's when I started to learn more about diet, and I started to learn more about, even the fatty acid profile testing that I'm a huge advocate for. Even, have a Google, we hit Google News. I have a huge press release that's out in the public space around the importance of epileptics testing their fatty acid profile test so that they can figure out what their inflammation is in their body, in their brain, because our diets right now and our food supply is so loaded right now with omega-6, seed oils, and it's causing so much inflammation that's also, continuing this trend of inflammation in the brain and epilepsy and having more seizures.
Now, you say 1 in 26. Is this increased like autism has over the years? I mean, because 1 in 26, I mean, it's like you go out during the day, you're going to run into 26 people. So did it used to be something that 1 in thousands got, and now it's down to like a couple of fingers, right?
Yeah. So it's like, it really is trending up. We've got 50 million people right now with epilepsy in the US, and we have more people with epilepsy than autism, Parkinson's, MS, and cerebral palsy combined. Okay.
Oh my
But
goodness.
we don't see it for what it is, because when we look at somebody with epilepsy, we don't even know they have epilepsy oftentimes. Right. I mean, a lot of times we'll talk about this on our podcast. The feed is that seizures are a one-time event. So a lot of times people will look at a seizure and they'll say, well, that's a one-time event, and then that's it. There's no epilepsy related to that. But they don't realize that people with epilepsy have mood swings. They have anxiety. They have depression. Once you have a seizure for that day, your day is shot. I mean, it's like you've ran a marathon. You have headaches. You have nausea. You can't drive. There's a lot of limiting factors that play into the independence of epilepsy. So I think it's just because people don't look at an epileptic and say, oh, this person is an epileptic. Like most people, you wouldn't even know. Like if you walk into a restaurant or a bar, or you walk into like the gas station, or even like, a school, let's say, where there's all these young people and children, that there could even be young people around you that you don't even realize have epilepsy.
Now, once you've had a seizure with epilepsy, you can't drive anymore, right?
Oftentimes that is the case. And that was the biggest piece for my son, because when he turned, he was 14. So when he got confronted with the fact that he was being diagnosed with epilepsy, it hit him immediately. I mean, just the tears, coming down his face of just being confronted with the fact that he was not going to drive. He knew it. He knew he was not going to be able to drive, and that was going to be, playing a big part in his own freedom and independence. So my co-host, Alyssa, she actually was diagnosed with a very rare form of epilepsy, but later in life. So she actually was driving, and then she had her driver's license taken away from her. So yeah, it's a very real thing.
Yeah. And so if you're driving a truck, you're out of a job, right?
Yeah.
And it must be so hard for your son, because that's what all the kids look forward to is their first license, right?
Mm-hmm.
Getting in a car and having freedom. Now, with the epilepsy, do they get any bad health apart from that? I mean, are they open to more diseases, or is it just the seizures?
Yeah. So basically, what happened with Judah was he actually got a lung abscess. So when you have these, there's many different types of seizures. There's focal seizures, these grand mal, tonic-clonic, different types of seizures. And what happened was he had an lung abscess because he exasperated. So when he was foaming, it went back down into his lungs. And then that's what caused, we had him in the hospital for about 10 days. They weren't sure if he was going to be in there at first, when he first went in, AK, they said that they thought he was going to be in there for 6 weeks, and that it could have been fatal at that time with the lung abscess. So yeah, there's a lot of different byproducts. Obviously also too, there's a trigger and an inhibitor between bipolar and having seizures. So there's a lot of neurological disorders that come along with the seizures.
So you went from having the perfect family and the perfect son to chaos.
Very sharp. Yeah.
And you didn't know what was going to happen, not just the next day, but the next moment. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, oh my gosh, it's so hard. Like there's some days, like today, AK, I don't want to get emotional. Today was a hard day, for sure.
Don't stop me.
Yeah, today was a hard day. I think it comes in waves. Honestly, I almost canceled today's podcast, but I know that I just have to be strong in those moments, because it's very cathartic and it's very healing for me to continue to talk about epilepsy, because there's not a lot of advocacy around epilepsy. There's not a lot of research dollars that's spent in the epilepsy community. When you look at the statistics with regard to epilepsy, comparable to what is spent for Alzheimer's and dementia alone, I mean, we're talking about almost $4 billion a year spent in research for Alzheimer's and dementia. Yet that's 15 times more than epilepsy. Epilepsy gets about 200, and let's say 40 million a year in research dollars, but yet the community is only half the size of Alzheimer's and dementia. So there's not, when you're talking about the disparity, it's very unfair, to epileptics and their families, their caretakers, and those that love them. And we even see it with Parkinson's. Parkinson's is a community of 1 million people, but yet still gets more funding than epilepsy, which is 3 times the size of community comparable to Parkinson's. And there's just, I don't know why that is. I'm trying, AK, to get to the bottom of that, because there's a lot of celebrities that actually you and I know that are household names that have epilepsy. Elton John.
Wow.
Prince, Susan Boyle, many know her from the UK, the singer from, I believe it was America's Got Talent. There's Cameron Boyce. He actually was a big Disney star that passed away of SUDEP, from a young age, child actor. So, we know that there's, I'm thinking of all the different ones, that have epilepsy. I mean, it's Little Wayne, has epilepsy, has talked about it a lot. There's a lot of Flavor Flav, so there's a lot of celebrities, Catherine Zeta-Jones, that have epilepsy, but we just don't hear about it all the time.
It's very frustrating. I mean, I try really hard every day of my life to eat clean food, organic food, clean water, and it's just a struggle. And you're talking about seed oils and all the rest of it. People go to the supermarket and just fill their carts up, not ever looking at what's on the labels. And I spend a lot of time feeding myself to keep healthy. I got asthma, chronic asthma at 2, and all these decades. I mean, if it hadn't been for my mum, I would have been dead as a kid. But I've kept myself alive. I've been a triathlete. I've biked across America twice by bike, once from Canada to Mexico. I've still got lungs that are wheezy. You might even be able to hear it. That I breathe up here. But I take so much time and research and what I put in my mouth and the nutraceuticals I take for my health. And people need to start doing this. We need to knock on the door of government and say, stop it. All the chemtrails that are coming down that we're breathing, the whole thing's set up for our bad health. And I think that's my goal in life, is to teach people to be aware of what they can do for themselves instead of just chug-a-lugging down pills and potions and getting worse and worse for it. So tell me about your podcast, your new podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, AK. So the name of our new podcast is called The Feed, and it stands for Faces of Epilepsy Every Day. And as fate would have it, recently connected with a young gal named Alyssa Servito out of New Jersey, and was introduced to her because of the connection through epilepsy. And she was diagnosed with a rare form of epilepsy. And so she's my co-host. She's 25, and it's been amazing. Wow. Yeah. So to have her, and she's kind of a micro influencer. So, it's great to just have her being out there. It takes a lot of courage to talk about epilepsy and the struggles that we have with seizures and different things. And then the other great thing is that we have an incredible producer. His name is Michael Hall, and he's out of, kind of the middle of the States, and he's producing the show, and he's also an epileptic. So, and then you've got me, who lost a child to a SUDEP and epilepsy, and I'm on the West Coast. So it's been a good matchup, and it's really a platform for epileptics to tell their story, and those that also love them, so that they can feel that they're heard, they're seen, and that they have a community that they belong to that can help them get their stories out.
And people that don't have epilepsy, like friends and family, they can come on too, can't they?
Exactly. Yeah. And then they can see themselves in those conversations, and I think that's also really, really cool, is that they get to see themselves in that conversation and say, oh my gosh, finally someone that's speaking my language. I've met my tribe of people that actually understand where I'm coming from and what I'm dealing with. Because a lot of times families do not understand how difficult it is. Because, the epilepsy community, I think they're not really the squeaky wheel. They're sort of the warriors, in a sense. And I love it, because even though they have this chronic condition and there's no cure for epilepsy, they're not out there, saying, woe is me. You never hear them really complaining or they're overcomers. They are true overcomers and fighters. and just very humble community. I love being associated with them, and so we're exciting about the podcast. We just had finished our first week this week, so we just had our third
Yay.
episode, yesterday. So it's very exciting.
And it's going all around the United States and overseas.
Yeah, United States, globally, we're on all platforms right now: social media, YouTube, Rumble, and then also we're getting ready to be on Spotify and Amazon, all the other platforms for the podcast.
Oh, that is so exciting. Now, the next thing is to get you, when you say that it is an incurable, see, all we have to do is put more money into the research and find out why, why are people getting it? And once you know the why, then you can fix it. That's where it needs to go. I mean, I know that I can't breathe, and I know what to do. I mean, bicycling across America, you got to know how to breathe, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
you better.
Then you can work with everything. And yeah, it's a great idea that you came up with. How did you meet Mike?
Michael Hall, I met through just through Instagram, through Faces of Epilepsy. We set up the brand Faces of Epilepsy, and we started going into all these groups on social media for epilepsy. And I just started making all these posts, AK, about my story, my son's story. I interviewed his girlfriend, Haley, who also has epilepsy, who was able to get off of her medication strictly through diet and exercise, and advocated for herself as a young woman, 19 years old, put a stop to her seizures. I did an interview with her, just kept connecting. And as we kept promoting, Faces of Epilepsy and the community on Twitter and Instagram, Michael Hall came across one of our posts and said, "We'd love to connect with you about epilepsy and interview you for one of my podcasts." And so I went on one of his shows, and then, I said to him, I think this could be a thing. I think that this could be a thing. And he agreed. And so did Alyssa. And he said, "What do you think about doing a podcast called The Feed?" And so we did. And here we are. Yeah.
And this is just the little start, the kernel. It's going to grow into this massive forest of information. The next thing you need to do is find all the politicians that have it, and then get them looped in so that there's more money feeding into the research. It's all about the research, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's the next kind of phase of what we're moving into with Faces of Epilepsy. We're building up the community right now. We've got about 500 in our group on Facebook, and got quite a bit of following that we have on TikTok. We do a lot of videos on TikTok about seizure awareness, education for what to do when someone has a seizure. Don't run away. Stay there. Help them. Put them on their side. Protect their head. Be calm with them and walk them through the process of getting them back online, so that they know where they're at. And then beyond that, it would be, a petition through change.org to be able to get more research dollars, especially in the area of, ride share programs and medications for epileptics. Also, it would be education at the school level for children on how to deal, with this when the child next to them has a seizure. Because a lot of times children, they're diagnosed very young, and it's very rampant in young people. So a lot of times someone will have a seizure, like my son, right? He had a seizure, and then we took him to the hospital, and then he was diagnosed with epilepsy. That's usually kind of the timeline of what happens.
Oh, there's so much. When you think about it, your mind just explodes, right? The whole idea of school too. And I know I've met people who have been around people who've had seizures, and they don't know what to do. They get scared out of their minds instead of just at least being there. If you can't do anything else, just roll them on their side and be there.
Yes.
So we all need to be educated, and you're obviously the focal point of all that right now. You're it, Lisa. You and your group feed. It's going to be all up to you on your shoulders.
Yeah.
Thankfully, you're wonderfully strong woman, and you've got the empowerment within you to help people. And I still don't understand how you got past your son. I mean, that really gets to me. And just to say it, I mean, it just affects my whole body, mind, spirit, and heart.
Yeah.
So the next thing is to get more money, huh?
Yeah. And I think too, AK, just to kind of speak into that with regard to Judah and why some days are harder than others is because Judah was such a lover. You know, he was a lover of people. And he loved me so much and so deeply. I always felt so loved by him. I knew that he always showed up with a lot of love. And I remember that, you know, it was, you know, it's kind of like moments of that, you know, my faith has carried me through a lot of that. You know, I'm a woman of faith. And if it wasn't for that, you know, I know that I wouldn't be able to be having the strength that I have. And I also have an incredible community around me of incredible, amazing women and men that love me very, very much and have helped me to get through the grief, you know, process of and kind of turning that into advocacy. But a lot of that was Judah, because I would feel like a prompting in my spirit that, you know, Mom, I'm not here, but there are still people here living with epilepsy. Help the living, you know, help the living. Do something for the ones that are still alive.
And it looks like there's going to be more and more and more people by the numbers that you're talking about. With your podcast, how do people get onto it, for starters? And then is there a place there to find out where to give money?
Yeah, judaslegacy.com is where our GoFundMe is set up right now. So judaslegacy.com, anyone can go there and contribute. All of that money goes towards epileptics. It doesn't go to me. It doesn't go to, you know, it all goes to epileptics. So guaranteed any dollar that comes in through judaslegacy.com will go to an epileptic, whether it's to test them for a fatty acid profile test, to get them on a high omega-3 with polyphenols, because that does play a big part in their diet. Or it's just to support them if they need a ride share, or they need an Uber, or they need something, it always goes towards epilepsy. And then as far as the feed, they can connect with me, Lisa Griggs, on Facebook. Faces of Epilepsy.me is our Facebook community. Faces of Epilepsy.com. We've got a great website there. And also, you know, anybody can go there to connect with me or connect with the podcast.
You've got a lot in front of you, lady. Huge task. And you have a group around you to help you, right? And that's growing. Yeah. And are these people all connected to epilepsy, or have they just done it out of the goodness of their heart?
Yes. Nope. They're all either epileptics or their parents that have lost children to epilepsy. Have a lot of that. I've connected with a lot of moms recently that have lost their sons or daughters to epilepsy. A lot of parents for sure. And then, you know, people that are epileptics or are spouses of epileptics. So yes, there's always somebody that has some sort of connection with epilepsy.
Wow. You better stay really healthy, because you've got a long life in front of you of getting this all organized.
Yes.
Thank you, Lisa, so much for giving us a little glimpse of such a huge problem.
Yeah.
And it's so hits the heart so much. And especially you to speak on behalf when you think of your son. It's crazy how you've gotten through it. And like you said, you've gotten through it by other people and your connection to
absolutely
the spirit world, whatever. I got to thank you, darling.
Yes. And you're one of those connections, AK. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for helping me get through this day, one day at a time.
Yes.
Present in the moment. And I love you so much. I'm so grateful for this interview and this time today with you.
And I'm grateful for having you here. Okay. Aloha.
Aloha.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.